Greetings, everyone. I'm Elvina, your host on Tender Talks. Allow me to introduce our esteemed guest, a distinguished Indian Army veteran, an accomplished corporate professional with expertise as an organizational culture transformation consultant. He has empowered organizations as well as individuals enhance various facets of their organizational culture. Bringing value on the table today, we welcome Major General Neeraj Bali, Sena Medal, to Tender Talks. Welcome, General Bali.
Thank you very much, Elvina. My pleasure.
So, having donned the shoes of being an Army veteran and then to the corporate life, so can you take us through your personal journey of the Army life to the corporates and the difference that you feel as an individual?
All right, so I superannuated 8 years ago from the Army. I was an infantry officer, and if you count my training period, I wore the uniform for about 40 years and 4 months. I had a single point goal. I still have the same single point goal that I'm never going to retire. So I literally started working the very next morning, which happened to be a Sunday, a May Day, a Maharashtra Day, but I still joined work as CEO of a rural education society, which used to run 92 schools and colleges all over Maharashtra. And subsequently, we had to move north for family reasons. So I became CEO of a engineering company, a PMC company, with mega projects in India and in Myanmar. So clearly, this has been quite a change. And as the MD of the company keeps reminding me, he says, you seem to be reinventing yourself every day. You were a Fauji, an infantry officer, in anti-terrorism role. Then you moved on to education. Then you moved on to corporate life. And now you are a best-selling author, consultant on various things, a trainer, and so on and so forth. It's been a very wonderful transition, a wonderful ride. And if I may just sum it up as to why I call it wonderful, and a lot of people ask this question: why are you working so much? I mean, what have you got to gain now? Uh, there is a great book called A Man's Search for Meaning, where the author, who was incarcerated in the Nazi camps, survived, barely survived. And when he came out, he wrote about the experience and he said, what is the meaning of life? What am I doing here on this earth? And then he came to the right answer. Life will never tell you what the meaning is. You have to give meaning to whatever you do. You have to find purpose in the moment. You have to decide what is it that I'm bringing to the table, to this life, which will give me purpose. So I am perpetually looking for that purpose and happily finding it in every moment. So that's my journey and that's my transition.
Amazing. So, of course, in this journey, learning is a never ending chapter because you learn on daily basis. So, what is your secret to never ending learning?
I'm, we are all driven by something, right? I'm driven by trying to make sense of life, trying to make sense of things around me, trying to find patterns in life and to see why is it happening, whether it is geopolitics, whether it is my own personal being, whether it is the psychology of people. So that's something which has always excited me. And that's part of the reason why I also read a lot. Uh, I think that is what is driving me all the time to doing all these new things, trying to find out as to what lies on the other side of the hill. And I'm quite happy not finding it. I'm quite happy. I'm quite happy just climbing the hill.
Right. Amazing. So, we have a lot of youngsters and a lot of people who struggle in their corporate life to find their purpose and more than interested to know what's on the other side of the hill, like you mentioned. So, what's your piece of advice for such individuals?
Look, first of all, when you take these big decisions at this age, at a young age, please remember something. It's always going to be hard to take that call because you don't really know how this will pan out 10 years from now, 15 years from now. When I was a youngster, if I would say I knew what I'm going to be, it would be a lie, right? We don't know. We don't know how things will pan out. We have some ideas. We have some things that we wrongly call passion just because the thing has popped into our head. But I think what you can do is try and look ahead at least a year or two, and whatever you're doing, give it your best shot. Give it your best shot. That's the only way to finding out what you're good at. Okay. Secondly, it actually doesn't matter what you do in the long run. What matters is how good you are at that job, how good at what you are doing. You could be a lift operator and you could be the best lift operator in the building or in that area. You would still go back home with memories. When you retire, you still go back home and say, actually give you an example of a lift operator. So when I was CEO in our building, there was a lift operator. There were a couple of lifts. One was an old man, and every morning when I came, I would come about an hour ahead of the office. He would be furiously cleaning the lift. And more than once he told me, he said, "Sir, ये lift जो है ना चलाना ये इतना आसान काम नहीं है. It's not an easy job. Not everybody can do it. And look at my record. The lift is never broken down on any working day because I get it done on Sundays. And I do it because I know that if this lift doesn't work, your business will suffer." Here is a man who's understood the role and purpose of his life. Here is a man who will have something to tell to his granddaughter when they ask you, "Okay, granddad, what did you do as a lift operator?" Okay, so it really doesn't matter. Wherever you are, wherever you're starting out, give it your best shot and see what comes out of it.
Right. Speaking about the book that you have authored, The Winning Culture, can you give us some insights about it?
Yes. So let me tell you a little story. Uh, in 2016, I went to IIM Ahmedabad, and at the end of the talk, one young lady got up and said, "How is it that you guys in the army become so different? You come from the same demographic, you have the same parenting, same education, same financial anxieties. How is it that the people in the army are willing to lay down their lives when there is no bonus at the end of the year? Something unthinkable in the corporate sector." Okay. Now, you yourself are an army spouse, so you know what I'm talking about. The correct answer to that question is not patriotism or dedication or any of those words that people loosely associate with the army. The correct answer is that every organization, every political party, every club, indeed every family has a culture. Culture is what we collectively start doing, how we collectively behave. And that culture is so powerful that it makes, if it's a good culture, it's a robust culture like the army, it makes even ordinary guys do extraordinary stuff.
Yes.
All right. But we don't seem to focus on it all that much. So when I became a CEO, I realized that everyone in the corporate sector knows this word. And they all talk about it and says, "Our culture theek nahi hai, we need to fix this." But nobody seems to know how to do it. And then I said, since I was blessed to be in an organization which had such a great culture, inherited from the British, tweaked to our Indianness, is there a case to build a bridge between that and the corporate sector and bring shepherd some lessons from there for the corporate sector? And that is why I started writing this book 4 years ago, and it's done well, I'm happy to say.
Great. That's amazing. So, lessons from what corporate individuals, like you mentioned, that corporate life culture is there, army life culture is there. So, what are those lessons as an army officer or the culture of the army that you have taken over there in the corporates?
So the book has 8 chapters, 7 of them have got one lesson each. Uh, but before talk about that, I want to make one thing very plain. And a lot of people ask me, but the corporate world is so different. The world of business is driven by profit. The army is not. You guys have more or less a permanent job. Here people come and go. So how can you bring the lessons of the army into the corporate sector? Isn't this not a good idea, not a relevant idea? It is not my case that anyone should copy the army. That would be nonsensical. The environments are very different.
Yes.
My case is that there are some universal leadership attributes, some universal truths which apply to all of us. And I'm going to mention one or two just now. And that is what you need to learn from. For example, I've a chapter called Why Are Offices Dying? It's a curious chapter.
Hmm.
The genesis of that chapter is that when you read the news any day coming out of Kashmir or the Northeast, you often see headlines like one officer, two jawans killed, one officer, one jawan injured, etc., etc. When the ratio of officers and jawans is so different, why is it that there's always an officer in the mix? The reason is because the Indian Army officers, for them, leading by example or leading from the front is not just a conceptual construct, it's not an academic construct. They are doing it physically.
Yes.
So, a lesson of leading by example is so relevant to the corporate. What does it mean to the corporate? What does it mean to the students? I'll tell you in a minute. It means being more competent, working harder than the people you are with, taking greater risk than you demand of your subordinates, taking responsibility for failures, not throwing people under the bus, protecting the team you have, and always being visible where action is. When there is crisis, you got to be present there.
Yes.
Okay, that's what it means for the corporate sector. So there are lessons like that, and this is just one of the 7 lessons I've talked about.
Absolutely beautiful insight and beautiful knowledge sharing. I'm sure the people who are watching have a lot of takeaways from this episode that we have, especially where organizational culture is concerned for corporates, which is extremely important to lead by example. So, your last piece of advice that you would like to give our audience, or your key takeaways that you have experienced in life that you want youngsters or even our audience to incorporate in their daily life for a successful future and greater growth?
Right. So the number one lesson that I think we all need to imbibe, no matter who we are, is discipline is the answer to all problems. All right. Now, this is not my quote. This is a great book called The Road Less Traveled by Scott M. Peck. And the book, interestingly, begins with the sentence, Life is difficult. Discipline is the answer to all the problems. Now, what is discipline? What should discipline mean to a youngster? What should it mean to a college going student or to a guy in the corporate sector? It's not marching up and down. It's not saluting people. That's not discipline. Discipline is your willingness to delay gratification, delay fun, delay pleasure, and doing the hard thing first. Just that. Okay? A child who comes home and decides to attack his homework or whatever these days children get, I don't even know, does the study first and then goes on to Instagram or YouTube or whatever the children are doing. I mean, I'm sure they're doing all this, is going to be successful.
Is the other
And
way around, but the
the
kids
other way
are more
around is going to
interested
be
in playing and on social media, watching TV, Netflix, and then, of course, the parents have to get
absolutely.
behind them. Open your books.
Absolutely. The other way around is the road to failure. Anyone who tells you otherwise, if you're a youngster listening to this, if anyone tells you otherwise, that no, 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 we should have fun first, is not your friend. Is not going to work. All right. I played cricket with a great couple there as a school's junior team. And while we didn't know how great couple they was going to turn out to be, but I do remember that when the teacher told us to warm up and go around the field 10 times before we started playing, we hated it. We wanted to just play cricket. But I do remember that couple probably went 20 times. You know, he wanted to do the hard thing first. It's the hard thing first that is going to make you successful. So please remember that. If you love yourself, please be disciplined. Elvina, you brought out a very important point. This is about the social media, obsession with the digital media. Sometimes when I talk to people, they say, how do you have so much time to do so many things? And I said, so do you have a lot of time? They said,
Absolutely.
no.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah. So I said,
Yeah.
all right, how much time are you spending on your mobile or on your YouTube or Instagram on the web? And they say, truthfully, I think it'll work out to 3 to 4 hours a day. No, it won't. Install an app which that checks your expenditure of time. You'll be surprised you're spending probably 5 hours or 6 hours a day. Now, if you have the luxury of spending 3 to 6 hours of your wake up time looking at a gizmo out of which no good is ever going to come out.
Yes, especially
There is
those
no
reels
magic happening. Yeah, especially
that
those
just
reels.
keep captivating the eye, but then outcome is zero.
Absolutely right. So nothing golden is ever going to emerge from there. It's not going to make you rich. If anything, it's going to make you poor. Nothing. You keep, and these companies know it, you see, they want to keep you hooked. So even
Yes,
when you're typing on WhatsApp, you send a message to someone, immediately you say, so and so is typing. Why? WhatsApp wants you to stay there. He doesn't want you to go for the next message. So if you have that sort of a time and you're willing to throw 3 to 6 hours of your day on social media, then congratulations, you're not going to be successful. I'm sorry. You will have to cut this habit out. I am a firm believer that just as the world woke up to the dangers of smoking and alcoholism and tried to fix it, or drug abuse, this is got to be our next enterprise,
absolutely,
fixing what we do with social media.
absolutely. That's extremely important, and I completely resonate with it because my screen time for the entire week, like 7 days, is hardly 3 hours for the whole week. So, let alone a single day, I only pick up my phone just to read the messages and respond. Time and again, of course, when we have that scheduled time break, that's the only time.
I will completely validate what you said about yourself. Much as
Yeah,
we see, we've never met, but I've seen your work, I've seen what you do, I've seen what the response is. And I completely resonate with this because I know that you're doing a lot of things, and a lot of people must be asking you this question. And now, where are you finding the time to do this? Where are
yeah,
you finding the energy to do this? We have time. Time is all we have.
yeah.
Okay. And the other thing is, I have several people whom I know some people, when you message them, you see that they haven't seen the message for 2 hours or 3 hours or 4 hours.
I guess
I
I'm one
always,
of them on your list.
yes,
Because,
yes, yes, yes. I was about to say that. I was about to say that. I was about to say that. And I always respect those people because I know here is a person who's not hanging on to his cell phone with his dear life and not perpetually stealing glances and saying, Abhi kya aa gaya mere liye? Main dekhu kya aa gaya? I don't know
right,
what are we waiting for. So you're
right,
one of those people. So that's why I wanted to validate this.
right. So that was amazing insights, General Bali, that we have. Anything else that you want to pass on to our audience?
I already said something, and I'm just going to repeat that because that is really something I believe in. If you want to be a leader, a true leader, not even a great leader, but just a good leader or a leader, there is only one attribute you need to remember. You can throw the rest of the book out of the window. It is you can only do it by example. Please don't think otherwise. Words don't cut, words are cheap. Anybody can stand on a pulpit and say, oh, we are a great company, we are a family, come to me, you know. That doesn't work. You have got to set a great example, whether you're a mom, whether you're a dad, whether you're a school basketball team captain, or you're a monitor, or even a ordinary individual who doesn't have anyone to command. Okay? Because the world looks at results, they look at your example. There comes a time in our life, I'm 66, so I know there can come a time in your life when your children, though respect you, will not follow you. They will follow what you do. They'll not follow what you say. Okay? Because saying is easy. So please take that one lesson away. Be disciplined and set an example. I think that as an act, the biggest act of self-love.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, General Bali. It was a pleasure having you on Tender Talks, and I'm sure we have inspired and touched many lives, and then we can make a difference in their life, and they in turn can make a difference in the life of others. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, Amrita. Thank you very much. The pleasure is entirely been mine. And I also want to say that continue to do the great work you do. Many people find inspiration in that sort of work. I am one of them. So continue to do the great work. And thank you for having me.
Thank you.